Well, for regular viewers of CNN and this show specifically, you will recognise a familiar face reporting from conflict zones and some of the most remote corners of the world alike. For the past 18 years, Aroى Daimon has set the standard for courageous journalism with a heart. And today, sadly, is her last day as a CNN senior international correspondent. Aroى is best known for her compassionate storytelling, for treating her subjects with humanity and sensitivity in every television package and every digital piece. She's had a remarkable and, quite frankly, wild ride. She admits that herself. She started her career in 2003 at the Baghdad Bureau, reporting through some of the darkest days of the war in Iraq. In 2012, she was one of the first journalists to arrive in Benghazi, Libya, following the attack on the US embassy there, and she extensively covered the war against ISIS in Iraq and Syria, even getting trapped for 28 hours in Mosul after her team's convoy was ambushed and attacked by the terrorist group. But no matter where she went, the human side of the story remained a cornerstone of Arowy's reporting. And it was her personal experience in war zones that led her to launch a non-profit called Inara that provides medical care to children who need life-saving treatment. Well, in her goodbye note to the network, her colleagues, she wrote, and I quote, "I'm getting emotional now, so we'll end this by saying, it's a privilege to have a life where I have been able to have ideas and actually pursue them. This is another of those junctions in life, and it's time for me to see where that crazy path goes. It's unnerving, but I'm excited. And after all, if you know me, you know that I am more afraid of living with what if or if only than I am of taking a chance and failing." Well, Aroى joins me now for one last live hit. People thought you were crazy, Arowy, when you took up that job at CNN. You, though, did end up reporting through some of the darkest days of the Iraq war and others. Just reflect on some of what you've experienced with CNN, if you will.
I mean, first of all, Becky, I have to say I've been absolutely floored by the kind and generous and supportive response that I've gotten. And yes, you know, those years that I spent in Iraq formed who I am. They defined who I am. But it wasn't necessarily the moments of darkness that we experienced as a Baghdad bureau, whether it was the explosions or the killings or how deeply and profoundly, you know, what was happening in the streets of Iraq was impacting our friends, our CNN Baghdad family, our Iraqi staff. What really stands out for me when I look back on those years is this intense camaraderie that we had at the Bureau, the way that we constantly supported each other. And there is one story in particular that just thinking about, talking about, gives me goosebumps. And that is, you know, the story of this little boy named Yusuf, who was 5 years old when CNN met him, and he had had gasoline dumped on his face. He was set on fire by unknown masked men. And the time that that happened, it wasn't just that people weren't paying attention to Iraq at the time. It was that this depression had really permeated Iraqis, it permeated the Bureau. And when we reported Yusuf's story for CNN, the response to that was just so overwhelming and resulted in Yusuf going to America and getting medical care and the joy of his parents. We adopted that joy. Their joy became our joy, and it bound us together in a way that's it's inextricable. We're bound together now, and it's beautiful.